What is going on, everybody? You are back in the War Room podcast. This is the Tactical Scalper, Stock Scalper Mike, and
This is Max Convexity, your good friend from Austin.
love it, baby. So, we got a few interesting topics for people today, and so if you don't mind, Max, I'm gonna throw out the topics just so people know what we're going to talk about, and I know we're going to have some surprise topics that'll come up in conversation. So
Yeah, sure.
today, guys, we're going to talk about Tsly. We're both going to give our thoughts and about that. We're going to step in a little dog poop and talk about internet trolls. We're going to talk about Defiance funds, the latest dividend disbursements, and just thoughts in general. ULTY is new on the block. We can talk about that today, and then, like I said, we got some, some other topics we'll bring up as conversation goes. So, what do you think of those, Maxie?
That sounds like a winner, Mike.
All right, so let's start here. Tsly, I'm gonna go ahead and throw this one in your court first. I'm gonna throw you the ball first, Maxie. What, just in general, right now as you see it, what are your thoughts on Tsly as a fund overall?
I'm bullish on Tesla as a fund because I'm bullish on Tesla as a company, and the fund can only do as well as the company can. I don't know if anyone saw my video about Max's theorem or Max's high yield math, but for an ETF like Tesla to pay a 50% yield in a year, and not to have any NAV erosion, that means the parent asset, there's no such thing as NAV erosion, first of all, but you guys know what I mean. But not to have a NAV go down, the parent asset has to make 100%, because generally the child asset gets about half of the upside. We know covered calls don't get the upside. So in a theoretical year, if Tesla is up 100%, that means Tsly might be up 50% in total return. Well, if Tsly's paying a 50% dividend, just for easy math's sake, they pay a little bit more, but for easy math's sake, if they pay a 50% dividend, that means their NAV will be dead even on the year. So if that's, and a lot of people really like the NAV to be even or actually creep up a little bit, and I get that. So it's really important to pick a high yield fund that has a parent asset that can explode, and Tesla can be up 200 or 300% in a year easily. Now, it didn't work out last year that well, but that's my thought. You got to pick a parent asset that has some go-go juice, and Tesla does. Plus, it's oversold. It's down here so low. I just think it had a bad year. It's going to revert to the mean. What do you think about Tesla, Mike? You're a bull, aren't you? Tesla bull?
I mean, I'm not a Tesla bull per se. I would say I'm more of a opportunity bull. How about that? I mean, honestly, Max, I don't give two rats about Tesla in general. But I do like the opportunity here. Does that make sense? As opposed to, so I'm a bull on Tesla just because of the opportunity of the actual stock price of Tesla. So I think you and I are seeing eye to eye on this as far as Tesla, the company, goes. Um,
Yeah, I agree.
what are your thoughts on the covered calls that they've been running? You know, there's a lot of talk about it, and like, what do you think about that right now, and how they're doing their covered calls, and why they're doing them, so close to in the money, or even in the money,
All
for
right.
that matter.
Or yeah, well, I don't know about in the money. They did one that was slightly in the money the other day, or that was Coinbase. Maybe. Anyway, yeah. Okay, I have a general thought. I'll never discuss this with anybody or made a video about it, but I see people all the time that I respect, like Retire on Dividends and whoever. I mean, a lot of other YouTubers that and lots of times they'll get upset and they'll say, why didn't they put the strike further out or whatever? And I get that. But here's my opinion. I think they're doing it algorithmically. I think they have a freaking sheet to check off, and they need to get so many deltas every day, and they'll look at the 200 or so many thetas and deltas. They're managing this algorithmically or mathematically and systematically, and they'll look and see what it's paying. And if the 200 call is paying what they need to make, they'll sell it even if the stock's at 195, because we don't know what they're looking at. Maybe the 205 call doesn't offer the right amount of risk and return for whatever system they're following. If I can ever get Jay on here, I'm going to try to confirm that, but I don't think there's somebody sitting there. Here's what I don't think. I don't think there's somebody sitting there going, hey, we got overhead resistance at 200. So, we might want to write the 200. I don't think they're looking at technicals. I don't
Really?
think they're
You don't
looking
think
at
they're
any.
using technicals at all?
I don't. And I would love to confirm that with Jay. I think it's a matter, it's math. I think it's a mathematical collection strategy. I really do. And I may not be right, but I really think they have like a system, and they sit there and they try to get a certain amount of premium or certain amount of deltas and thetas every day or every whatever. And when they have a decision to roll, I think they're just, I think they're just looking at purely from whatever call meets their needs, regardless of where it is in respect to the breakout or the bull wedge or any of the other stuff. I really don't think they look at or care about that stuff. I think it's math. I really do, but I may be wrong. Now, I will say this, something that goes against that theory, something that somebody else could throw back in my face is, well, how come some of the funds laddered their strikes out and stuff? And I don't know. That does, because some of the funds, but here's what I think. Look at like MSTY. They have calls right now that are 40% out of the freaking money and for next week. But I think that those calls that with the delta and theta they had met their expectations or met
Mm-hmm.
met their requirements. I don't think they're looking and saying, hey, I think it's going to be a bull week in crypto. We got the halving coming up. And I don't think they care about any of that. I really don't. But like I say, I cannot wait to get Jay on and see if that is a true thing or not. But that's my strong suspicion. Like I say,
Yeah,
I've never really talked about that before, but I really don't think they look or care about technicals. I really don't.
I would be interested in that too, Max. If you get Jay on or Sylvia, or if it's a combination of both, or if each situation warrants a different, you know what I mean, a different plan. If they're like,
And it may
okay,
be,
maybe it's
yeah.
not cut and dry. Maybe there's some weeks where technical analysis is a big deal, and maybe there's some weeks where it's not. But we're just speculating, I reckon. But you
And
know,
I am going to get Jay and or Sylvia on. It's my mission to do it. I've got a list of questions. Jay seems to be very accessible. As everyone knows, Retire on Dividends is trying to set up an interview with them right now, and I think he's going to get it set up. And other people in our Discord have been talking. I think it's just a matter of time, and I'll get him on. He's very proactive about education and talking to the retail customer. And I think he sees people like Retire on Dividends and me and Corey as a conduit, and other people, and even Coach and other people as a conduit for him to get the message out there. So I can't imagine that I wouldn't be able to get him on in the next couple of months. I'm going to keep trying until I do. Let's just put it that way.
there you go. Well, my thoughts on Tesla are pretty similar to yours. Now, I own it. I did. Okay, no. So my history with Tesla is rather sordid. I owned it, and obviously kept going down because Tesla was going down, and then they did that dreaded. I don't remember what it was, 217 strike or something way back when, and I didn't like how they changed the prospectus at that point in time because they
Yeah,
did indeed
I
change it.
remember.
And so I felt a little misled as an investor that they did that, right? So so I sold Tesla at that time. I sold it for a loss, but it was a minimal loss, honestly. I think maybe I was lost like $75, including dividends. So, it wasn't anything massive by any means. So I just put that money into QQQY and IWMY, made the money back through the dividends of those funds, right? Well, I've recently, within the last month, have gotten back, month and a half, have gotten back into Tesla. And the reason solely I've gotten back into Tesla is due to the Tesla chart. Now, as long as Tesla is paying over 50% dividend, Max, I'm okay with it, even if it breaks major support, meaning Tesla, and goes down or whatever. I'm okay as long as they're paying the 50%. Now, if we start falling off, Maxine, we start getting 45, and I'm like, okay, I'll give it another month, and then the next month's like 40 or 35. Well, then I'll probably have to reconsider. So my whole basis on being on Tesla right now is trying to, I guess, essentially time Tesla and thinking that it's oversold. It's due, whether or not that's going to happen or not, right? That it's due for Tesla's due for a run, and so it's more basically timing Tesla is why I'm in Tesla currently. So I'm in it for
Yeah, I agree
opportunity. I
with.
see an opportunity, and I think we're going to do okay. But of course, Tesla don't care what I think, right? So
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. Let me ask you something. Have you ever thought? Okay, I do think technicals are very important, and I'm wondering how a system like this work. I wonder if an investor looked at the yield max universe, all 19 or 20 ETFs, whatever they have now, and pulled out a chart, or maybe so you could do a video on this or something. But anyway, or maybe I'll do one, and showed where the and just picked stocks where the parent asset was above the 50 and above the 200. And that might narrow down to like 10 of them. So that would have you in Coney, and it would have you in MSTY, and it would have you in the hot ones. And it would have, just in other words, do a trend following system where you rotate through the yield max universe with 5 or 10 of them that where the underlines have the best technicals. There's some of them that that you want to be in Coney, you want to be in Nvidia, because and you don't want to have. I don't like judgment. I don't trust my own judgment. But systematically, if you could pick the 5 stocks that are above maybe above the 20, above the 50, and above the 200, that would give
hmm
you Coney, Nvidia, MSTY, and you would have those for the next 3 or 4 months until they fall below, and then you would take them off the list, and then maybe in the meantime, Tesla would finally break out and get above their 50 and 200. Boom, then you could add Tsly into the mix and try to capture the next bull run up there. I believe technicals and just basic trend following, systems are great and for the individual investor. I just don't think Jay's doing it. That's all I'm saying. I
yeah,
think yours
yeah.
is
No,
math, but
man. I mean, I am a trend following scalper by nature, right? That's how made most of my money in the market is actually trend trading. I'm always following the trend, up or down, doesn't matter. And I use exponential moving averages because they work like
yep,
they work
yep,
amazingly well, amazingly accurate. They do provide support and resistance levels, whether people believe it or not. They do. I'm here to tell you, they do. I'm
I
living
agree.
proof.
Yeah,
I'm living proof it
I agree.
works. But
Yep.
yeah, I mean, I'm really interested to see. It would have burst my bubble, my little heart bubble, if he didn't use technicals. Yes, because I think they are to a point at sometimes, and then I'd be like, well, I guess I was wrong. But yeah, because I'm a technical guy, so I'm biased that way. You know what I mean? So in my mind's eye, I'm like, oh yeah, they're definitely using technicals. We got to for instance, last week or the week before, whatever, when I did the 200 call on Tesla, it just made sense it made perfect sense from a technical analysis aspect. We had resistance there is the bottom of the gap, everything lined up to make a $200 call.
Yeah.
And it worked, right? We dipped below 200 that week. We stayed below 200 that week because resistance was there, right? So I,
Yep.
I, I'd be fascinated. Uh, so yeah, if you get him on, man, I would love for someone to ask him if he uses technicals or to the level that they use them.
Yeah, and you may be right. Maybe it's holistic. Maybe it's a combination. Maybe they sit around and they say, okay, we got resistance here. Plus, with this one pays enough deltas and thetas. This meets our requirements for what we're trying to collect. Because with them, it's all about collecting extrinsic. So
Yeah,
it's probably maybe it is a hybrid combination thing. Who knows? We're probably
yeah.
both right. I mean, I'm sure we are. We're both
Or we're
smart
both
guys, right?
wrong. Or we're both wrong, right?
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe so.
So I think the
Yeah, but
consensus is here on Tesla. I think we're both bullish on Tesla. From right, wouldn't you say?
yeah.
Well, that's
And
good.
one other thing I wanted to add. Let me add one other thing I wanted to add. I want to talk about the reverse split real quick.
Yeah, let's do it.
Um, that's that's just a math trick. I've never understood that on ETFs. It's just a math trick. I get it that it's not a good sign when your stock's reverse splitting. This isn't a stock; it's a premium collection strategy, and it has idiosyncratic risk. Like I say, if the parent asset doesn't go up 100%, the NAV's gonna go down. That's period. Especially, and it's gonna go down the more that the more the fund pays, the more it's gonna go down. I didn't
Yep,
mean to
yep.
drop the F bomb, but I get excited about
That's
investing. But
okay, buddy.
seriously, it's so if it goes down, it's going to reverse split. It's a matter of time. I can guarantee you, IWMY is going to reverse split, and it's still a badass fund. It's just
Yeah,
a
they're
matter of
all going
math.
to reverse
So
split, don't you think, Maxie? Overall.
I'll say this: you can make a math formula, and it would be direct correlation between how high the yield is and the chance of reverse splitting. These ones that pay 100% are going to reverse split. There's no way around it, because if you pay 100% like Coney does, that means the parent has to make 200%. It means
Hmm.
Coinbase has to make 200% to keep the NAV level. So yes, they're going to reverse split, but a reverse split is just a math trick. It doesn't make you in any. I know you know this. I just get passionate about it, but it doesn't make you in any worse shape, because it doubles your dividend. I mean, so it's a math trick.
And
It's
I
just a
think
math trick.
what
So
I
yeah,
think
that drives me crazy.
the problem with the reverse split in people's minds is they've been burned by a stock, right? Or someone online has
Yeah,
been burned by a stock, not an ETF, right? That has
yeah,
reverse split. Therefore, once they put that negativity out there, if an investor isn't aware that the reverse split is irrelevant to an ETF, right? Like you said, it's just a
yeah,
numbers trick. That's it. It's nothing more,
yeah,
nothing less. It's a neutral. It's a neutral position. It's nothing. But they've been
yeah,
burned, I think, Maxie, by other stocks, and then that's in their mind, or someone else has, and they put that in their mind. Basically, in a nutshell, they're uneducated, right? Ignorant.
yeah. Well, either that, or I'll be more generous. I'll tell you my story about my first reverse split. It was in the '90s, and I invested in this company called Beverly Enterprises, and they were a REIT basically, but they owned a bunch of nursing home properties. And in the '90s, the population was getting older, and so it was supposed to be demographics were setting up for nursing homes. I did my research. I was into fundamentals back then, and this company was hot and stuff. And I thought, and I bought them for like 50 cents, and oh my gosh, I had 1,000 shares or something. I don't know, but I had a pretty nice little investment. So one morning I get up and they're at $5, and I'm like, holy shit! And so I start spending the money in my head. I want one of those chairs from Sharper Image. I'd always wanted one of those massage chairs
Yep.
from Sharper Image, but they're like $3,000, and I can't justify that. Especially I just got out of college, and I was thinking I'm going to go buy one of those freaking chairs right now today. So anyway, but sure enough, it was a reverse split. So I mean, and I was a stockbroker, so I should have. I mean, I understood what can happen, but it was a 5-for-1 reverse split. So I wasn't any richer. In fact, I was just as poor. But anyway, and that company ended up going to zero. Reverse split for a stock is not a good sign.
No,
It's
no,
I
it's
get
not.
that part of it. It's different on an ETF.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's where I just think that's where it comes in line, Max, is that folks just don't understand the difference. They're uneducated uh, between the differences between both of them, and hopefully, Tesla goes up. Tsly obviously will follow with it, and people will be educated from this, right? I think this space, and this is going to take us to the next topic. I think people are uneducated for them that I see a lot of them are uneducated. They're new, right? They've just gotten in the market with these funds from one how they've heard of them from one form or another, and they've gotten into these funds, and so they're uneducated and they just don't understand about a reverse split because all they know is what they've heard on the internet. Okay, so let's
Yeah.
transition if you don't mind. I'll start off with this one because I'm the one who wanted to bring this topic up. I'll step in the old proverbial dog poop first. I want to
Yep.
talk about internet trolls, Max, and the effect that they can have on investors. And just I see people go into discords that don't like these high yield funds for one reason or another. Their reason could be totally valid. It's irrelevant. But I see them going in there. And then instead of saying, hey, can you tell me more about this? They come in and they start, bashing the fund or bashing the people. That's even worse, right? Bashing the actual people that are holding these funds. And I see comments on my YouTube channel. I see that quite a bit. And, because I do like opinion based pieces on my YouTube channel sometimes. And of course, that's going to draw in folks. And I understand that because it's opinion based when I do those. Um, and I see these people putting in fear and doubt when there doesn't need to be any, right? They do it, and the newer investor can see this or reads this, and then that infiltrates their mind, Max, and then they can't help it. Once they start hearing these negative things, then they start regurgitating it, right? Because this is what they've
Yep.
heard. So they regurgitate this BS from somebody else. And then it just, it goes down the chain, and the more and more people are doing it. Now, for an example, for me, I'm not a Neo guy. Neo, the stock. It's just
Yep.
not
Yep.
my thing. I don't like it. Don't like the company, whatever. I don't go to a Neo, me personally, go to a Neo Discord server, hop in there and be like, what are you idiots doing? Why
Yeah.
would, what's the point of doing that, you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get that either. I really don't get that either. But all the negativity and stuff. That's the reason I started my channel, because I was watching Retire on Dividends every day and reading his comments. He was just getting bum rushed by people that didn't understand how these funds work and blah blah blah. So I started my channel pretty much to directly start help. Not I didn't even know him. I didn't communicate with him, but I was like, I'm gonna try to help this guy out. And so my first couple of videos were pretty much, I would just take bad comments he got and turn them into a video and try to explain from an option trader standpoint why that wasn't true. So that's kind of how my channel got started, is trying to combat trolls that were trolling other people. Or not, troll may be the wrong word. A lot of people are, I think troll insinuates somebody's doing it to get a reaction.
Yeah, those are the
I'm
type
trying,
of
those
folks
kind of,
I'm kind of leaning on here a little bit.
yeah, I'm just saying, but there's a lot of people, and we have some in our Discord that are critical, but I wouldn't put them in the troll category. They're still reachable. I'll say this. It's not no one in our Discord, but in another Discord, I used to argue with somebody, or we used to have discussions, and I made a point. I said, no, that's not the case, because this, and I proved it to him. I showed him charts. And now a month or two later, I'll see them get in an argument, and somebody will say the point that they used to say, and he'll show the same chart I used to show. So I'm saying I like when I have a positive influence. I can tell I've got through to that person. Anyway, I love trying to teach people. My channel's more about education, less about opinion. I have a feeling you're have more trolls because you put yourself out there more. I don't really do that. I just say, look, I'm going to teach you how. I try to just teach stuff and try to come at it from a somewhat neutral perspective. Outside of the first couple of videos I made, they were more opinion based, but now I'm just trying to do basic, basic education.
Do you get many trolls on your YouTube on your comments?
I've got a couple of times I went after Victoria's channel, and then it wasn't really a troll. It's probably somebody that was one of her fans, and they said something to me, and but I understand. And so then I started to think about it, and I'm sorry about the dog. Jackson, be quiet. But anyway, I started to think about it, and they made a good point too, and so I've modified my coverage on it. What I'm saying is I'm such a nice guy. I'll even listen to my critics and I try to and I try to figure, do they have a point? And sometimes I try to put myself in their shoes, and this guy made a decent point, and so I've kind of laid off, on the negative type coverage. But yes, I get a couple of them. I mean, I get a couple that make, and I have one that pisses me off and makes me mad. And but uh, but I also have a couple that weren't trolls, that are just people that are critics, a better word. They just hate these funds, and they just hate them, and no, they're no good and stuff. And but a couple of them I've ended up making friends with, and now we're friends, and they still don't love the funds, but they aren't trolls. They're just critics. So
Yeah,
I
I
get
mean,
more critics.
as long as they
Yeah,
don't like come from a personal, you know what I mean? Like they attack you personally. If they're not liking the fund, well, it's not for everybody, right, Maxie? But when they come
absolutely.
from a personal, like, oh, you're an idiot, you're a moron, that type of thing.
Yeah, or the ones mine always try to make me think. This one guy I don't like is trying to make it like he thinks I'm intentionally putting bad information out and shilling for the companies and stuff. And anyway, so I have one that I really don't care for, but he only pops up in my timeline every so often. But I never block him or anything. I could just mute his comments or whatever. But I'll usually just respond and say I'm sorry you feel that way, and I try to be constructive about it. But I haven't had to like block anyone or kick anyone out of the timeline. Sometimes there's crypto scanners that,
Oh,
scammers that
yeah, yeah.
I'll block. But any bad comments I leave up there. What I like is I have a lot of people that like me. I know you do too, and they'll jump in and they'll jump on his case. If I get a bad comment, there's usually two or three other responses before I even get to it. That. But anyway, so it's fun. But yeah, I've had like one or two legit trolls that were not constructive. The criticism was not constructive. If it's constructive, I can handle it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. As long as it's just not personal. But man, these guys, some of them are just
Exactly.
absolutely personal. I leave their comments up too because I want people to see other people's behavior. I don't think I've ever blocked a comment or anything. I want people to see when they leave a personal comment, you know, kind of one what we
Yeah.
go through as YouTube presenter. We're putting ourselves out there, so that's to be expected. But I just want people to see where these fools are coming from. Oh my goodness, my dog is acting up. Ugh. I put him in a bedroom so he wouldn't bark at the mailman or whoever's walking down the street. Now he's barking in the bedroom. All right, well hopefully he calms down.
Well, I'm sitting outside in my outdoor kitchen where I always broadcast. I call it an outdoor kitchen. It's just a carport where I have a badass Blackstone grill. We cook out here all the time. But anyway, I'm sitting out here because it's 70 degrees in Austin. Yeah, my dog just saw the UPS guy come by and went, anyway, I figured that might happen. It might happen again too, but I hear yours too.
Yeah, I may have to like on our next topic. Once you start talking, I may have to just mute myself, run to the bedroom, open up the door, let him out. But we'll see if he calms down. If he doesn't, I'll go do that. Well, I want to
Yeah,
ask you.
perfect. Whatever.
I want to ask you a question, unrelated to anything stocks. I want to know Max's desert island favorite food. One food item, Max, you could eat forever.
Um, that's a good question. I would say probably Tex-Mex. I mean, and even before I moved to Austin, I've always been a Tex-Mex guy, or even not even Tex-Mex and Mexican. My favorite ethnic type food is Mexican or Tex-Mex. I love that stuff.
Okay, so
Queso,
let's
cheese,
break it down
chips. Yeah,
even smaller. Mexican, that's pretty a wide, or Tex-Mex, it's a wide category. Give me one
yeah.
dish.
Sour cream chicken enchiladas
Okay.
or chips and queso. Yeah, or I mean, if I was on a desert island, I mean, I might try to choose something more healthy or something. But I'm just saying, if I was getting executed and I could choose, you get to choose your last meal, it'd probably be sour cream chicken enchiladas and chips and dip, something like that.
I like it. That's a good one. All right.
Yeah.
I like
What
it.
about you? What about you, bud?
Um, I'm gonna have to go with my ethnic roots, and I'm gonna go with spaghetti with meatballs and Italian sausage with the family sauce recipe. I just love it, man. That would be me. Even though I pretty much eat it twice a month on Sundays when we have family dinners. I would
Yeah.
still that's still my favorite. So yeah, that's
I
me. I'm
hear you.
pretty simple.
I hear you. That's a good one. When I'm talking categories, my first favorite category of food is Tex-Mex. My second favorite category of food is Italian. I love Italian.
Yeah, I'm afraid I'm going to get older and get too much heartburn from it, and then because I can feel it creeping in sometimes, and man, I'd hate to have not be able to eat it, but
Hey,
it,
have you ever heard the statistic? Have you ever heard the statistic that says Italian guys live longer, and even though they eat that really rich food, I'm talking from Italy and stuff. There's something about the oil they use or something, the olive oil, where I've
yes,
heard that.
yes.
Have you heard that same thing? Okay,
Actually,
all
I
right.
did
I'm just
some
wondering.
research on it. Believe it or not, it's like the blue. Oh my, I'm gonna butcher this, Maxie. It's like the blue diet, but it's like blue wave diet or something. It's because the guys, particularly in Sicily and Sardinia, Italy, everything is fresh, right? All
Okay.
they pull it out the earth, they eat it. It's not really
Yep.
processed. The olive oil,
Yep. Yep.
straight. There's we put olive oil on everything, right? So it's straight
Yep.
from the olives are extremely healthy, right themselves. And then
Yep.
all the nutrients and everything is so concentrated in a good wholesome olive oil. It's just like a vitamin shot, essentially every time you eat it.
Yep. Yep.
And so, yeah, it's
Yep.
a proven fact that people in Sardinia, Italy, live longer than most people on Earth, and is directly related to the fresh fish out the ocean. Eat a ton of fish. It's an island, right, just off the coast of Italy.
Yep. Yep.
All the ingredients are grown from the ground, and the olive oil, and the fresh air, and the
Yep.
activity. And yes, that's
Yep.
it's true. I can't read. It's Blue Wave Diet, Blue something. Blue Zone diet. That's what it is.
Blue zone diet. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. That's cool. I've always heard that my whole life. I've heard that you would think Italian guys would have higher instances of heart attacks and stuff like that and heart disease, but they actually have lower incidences of it.
Here in the
That's always what
United
I've heard.
States, we do. Here in the United
Yeah,
States,
well,
we
yeah,
do.
of course.
But
Yeah,
over in
yeah,
Sardinia or Sicily, it's a total, and that makes sense, right? I mean, like think of the Native Americans and even early Americans, right? Eating our food straight from the ground, Max. Boy, we turned this into a fun discussion, didn't we? All that great food, it's great for you, grown naturally the way it should be, right? It's got to be good for you.
yeah, yeah. Hell yeah, hell yeah. I agree. I agree. I love it. I love it. I have a theory that people in Austin, and this is just a theory, and I'm talking about my neighborhood in Austin. I live in a place called the Northwest Hills, but it's a whole side of Austin. It's the west side of Austin. It's super hilly. Just when I go jogging, I could barely walk up these hills when I first moved into this neighborhood, and now I jog up them. I wonder, and there's a lot of old people in my neighborhood. I just wonder if the people in my neighborhood that walk every day have a lower instance of heart disease and heart attacks than people that live in Kansas or Oklahoma or somewhere. That's
Yeah.
just a theory I've been working on. That so you could say the same thing about folks in Colorado. If you live around hills, I mean, these hills are just incredible up here, and they get you in such good shape.
I mean, it could only help, right? You're going up the hill. It's your heart's pumping more, and than it would if you're walking on level ground, right? It takes more effort physically to do it, so it makes sense.
Yeah, it's just a theory. In Oklahoma, I used to run stadium stairs to get, to train for hills or whatever. But that's as close as you can get to a hill. But there's just not many hills in Oklahoma and Kansas. I mean, I know
No.
but it's just flat as a board out there. But anyway, yeah, you would darn sure hope that I think it just adds to your. I bet you anything. If somebody did a study, it adds capacity to your lungs uh, to do that. It just hills are crazy. Same thing with swimming. Swimming's also a great sport. I bet swimmers and people that jog and walk up hills live longer. It's just a theory.
Yeah, I think it's pretty sound. All right.
Yeah,
Are you ready for the next thing?
you got it, bud.
We're going to talk about defiance. Let's move it. Let's go to ULTY. I'm thinking we may have two different opinions on this. on ULTY.
Yeah, I think we do.
What's your
Yeah.
thoughts on it in general?
My thoughts are it's gonna pay 100%. It's a triple digit dividend. I mean, that's my thoughts on it. And I don't have any. I haven't done any math or anything, but just eyeballing it, it's going to be a monster. Now I don't know how well the NAV's going to do because some of these stocks are dog shit stocks to be,
Yep.
but those are the ones that pay more. If it's all about what I've figured out since I started doing this is it's all about extrinsic capture. They're just trying to capture the time premium. This thing is going to be a monster. I think it's going to pay like Coney does because they have all stocks in here like Coney or or even ones that pay higher. So I think it may be a hot mess as far as the NAV goes, but I think it's going to be a monster.
Yeah, I think I'm there with you now. I was so excited when they started mentioning ULTY. I thought I was under the impression, just my own impression, that they were going to get into like let's just say Amazon, Tesla, Google, whatever, right? Different major funds. Oh my goodness, Max, I'm gonna let the. Can you talk about more about ULTY
Yeah,
just for a minute? I'm gonna go let my dog out. I'll be right back.
absolutely. I'd love to give some thoughts on it. All right. So here's what I think. I think they're just going to choose it doesn't matter how bad the stock is. I bet this is also an algorithm. I bet they run a scanner for stocks that have an option, a active options market and a relatively low bid ask with just the highest yield. I think it's just about yield. It's not about the quality of the underlying. Heck, they even have the Trump SPAC, DWAC. I don't think anyone's really bullish on that company long term, but lots of times companies that are bad companies pay huge dividends because of all the extra risk. And maybe I'm wrong about this. This may not be the greatest investment in the world, but I really like it. I really like it. I mean, they also have stuff like I'm looking at the list. Well, I think I like Mara. Mara's actually a good company. Or I don't know if it's a good company, but it's a fun company to be involved in. And they do have some of the yield max other stocks. They have MSTR and they have Coin,
Yeah, yeah.
but I like how it's Riot blockchain and I like it.
Okay, yeah. I think I was so excited. Like I said, like I thought it was gonna be more. I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking, but I was thinking it'd be more like Google, Amazon, Tesla, Nvidia, and
Yeah,
I know they already have those. But my
yeah,
initial impression when they came out was like, okay, they're going to move every 30 days to a different one depending upon the IV. And I was so excited. I'm like, I'm going to buy this thing from the inception. And I rarely do that. I did it with QQQY, IWMY, and JPY. But other than that, I don't buy any of these from the inception, me personally. I want to see how they perform over
sure.
time and see if they fit my plan or not, right? So I was like, I am so excited, Max, about this one. And then I saw the list of holdings. I am very familiar with a couple of them. Labu, Labu. Okay, they're
Yep,
using that one. Max, I have
yep,
traded that. I used to trade that one religiously. I made a lot of money off of it actually because it traded in a channel. And I think the price
yep,
point was between $5 and $8. And it traded in this channel, Max. Labu did for a year straight. It was the most incredible stock, ETF, whatever, that I have ever traded in my over I don't know, 15, 20 years, whatever, of investing and trading. The most incredible one, hands down. I made so
yep,
much money from it. But it was crap. It was crap. It's just that it so happened to be in a channel, and I took advantage of it. Another one is
sure.
DWAC. Okay, I am not a
Yep,
fan of
yep,
DWAC, and the reason I'm not a fan of it is it's a social media platform geared towards one specific audience, right? That's trying to
yep,
compete
yep,
with Twitter, Facebook, Discord, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, all these other social media platforms. But it only caters to one
yep.
audience and one audience only. That shows me that that thing doesn't have lasting potential. And so I shorted
Yep.
that thing, Max, and I made so much money. I literally shorted it with shares on DWAC, and
Wow, That's awesome.
Killed it,
Yeah.
killed it because of the business model. So with that being said, when this ULTY came out, I looked at the funds and I started going down the list and I'm like, well, boo, well, I made a lot of money off of it, but it's crap. Went down the list.
Yeah.
DWAC, what? Are you kidding me? Okay, that's crap. So now I'm kind of disappointed in my own mind because I built it up to be something it's obviously not.
So let me give the opposite. Let me give the opposite perspective. Yeah, I like it and stuff, but here's something that I am worried about, and it may be a legit concern. I'll just use DWAC for an example since we're talking about it. Okay, so DWAC, yeah, it pays an insane IV, sure enough. So boom, they buy the stock or they buy the synthetic, yeah, and then they sell a call, and the call makes hell a maybe the call makes 5% or something. It may make 10 times what they can sell options on QQQY for. Okay, so that's great. But then what happens? Maybe something bad happens. It comes out that there's been financial mismanagement, or maybe Trump ends up in jail and drops out of the race, or something.
Yep.
Something bad happens that we can't predict. EWAC's price drops overnight by half. These guys are, even though the option paid a bunch, are they going to bag hold that? Are they going to keep
Yeah.
selling options?
I
Are they
don't
going to cut
know.
loose? Now, yeah, now I don't know about that. That is something that worries me a little bit. But on the other hand, maybe if something like that happens, maybe they'll just cut it loose, take the loss, and then do another stock, or maybe they'll just do like we do and just keep writing calls on it until they get back to even. I want to ask Jay about that as well, but I am worried about the bag holding aspect of it because some of these companies are just dog shit for
They
sure.
are. They are. And so I was so
Yeah.
disappointed, man, because I thought it was, like I said, I built it up in my own mind to be something it's not. I didn't, I was like, man, this is going to be great. They can move from Amazon earnings. They can go to Google earnings. You know what I mean? And that was what I thought it was. I'm like, this thing is going to be incredible. Then I saw the holdings and I'm like,
Yeah.
are you kidding me? All
Let
right.
me
Well,
ask you something. Do you have any FEPI,
I do,
FEPI?
I do not. I'm looking at it. I'm watching it. I'm gonna have to be adding some of these more stable funds to my account starting my food business. My first event is in 2 weeks, and so that's when we're going to be starting adding really heavily to my high yield portfolio. And I've been watching it and
Sure.
thinking about it, but no, not yet.
Well, the reason I mention it is because you keep mentioning Amazon and Nvidia and all that. That the FEPI does that, or YMAG does that. But I know what you mean, though. ULTY, you were hoping maybe they would rotate through the big companies, but I mean
Yes.
through the blue chip high yielders instead of just the dog shit high yielders.
Yes, something with some
Yeah.
stability that could maybe the fund could last a long time. The NAV wouldn't be, wouldn't get depleted as quick and this and that, but no, that's not what they're doing. So I'll
Yeah.
be
Well,
interested to
sometimes
see
these.
how it plays out. Would you consider
Yeah.
ULTY gambling?
Would I consider it gambling?
Yeah, investing in
No,
it.
no. I think I just think it's the same thing as I don't think even on this one they don't care if the company's bad or good. They just have a mandate to collect the most premium they can. So no, I think they'll be fine with it. But I will say this that let's say this in a market downturn, it's not going to do as well as the other ETFs. As long as the market's going well, these dog shit companies do well too. I mean, so
Yeah.
that's my thought on that.
Okay. Well, I hope
You
everyone
know,
enjoyed
in
that. Go ahead. I'm sorry, buddy.
I was just going to say, in a market downturn, you're going to want, in my opinion, Defiance, and you're going to want Global X. Those are structured different where they don't get as much upside, but they're way better on the downside, in my opinion. Um, and the ones going to do the worst on the down if the market turns is something like Bally or iSpy or one of the ones that are monsters on the upside. You can't have your cake and eat it too. There's no free money. FEPI will do terrible in a downturn, in my opinion.
Hmm.
There's these ones that do so well in a bull market. The reason they're doing well in a bull market is because they have less tracking error or less buffer, because the way their options are structured, they're sold further out of the money, which is great because you get more upside. Further out of the money means less premium. The premium is what protects the downside. So I think that FEPI's having a moment, and Bally and iSpy and JetQ, and that's great. But I think for if you had to have a fund to hold, if I had to have an ETF to hold the rest of my life, it would probably be JEPY. Or if somebody stuck a gun in my head and said, you're going to buy this, but you can't sell it, it would probably be JEPY, to tell you the truth.
Oh, okay. Let's hold that there because that's going to transition perfectly to the next topic.
All right.
So I want to talk to you about Defiance funds. Okay. Now, we both like them. We both love them. So let me just
Yep.
start the questioning here to you, Max. I want to get your thoughts on this. Okay. All-time highs. Let's just start with QQQY as an example. Okay. NASDAQ 100, QQQs, all of it, right? All-time highs, right? Charts ripping up, looking gorgeous from the underlying. You flip that chart and you look at QQQY, and we're at all-time lows. Now, initially, if someone was to look at that, they're thinking, "Oh man, this is crap." And to me, it's not, because I'm so far up on dividends that it's great. But
Yep.
let me throw this out there: we've been going up for 5 months in a row, Maxie. What is this going to look like? QQQY, JEPY. IWM's a different animal. I think that needs to be discussed differently than these two. It moves totally different.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's going to happen when we get a 4-month downturn? What are you thinking? Because we're already at all-time lows on the QQY chart, JEPY chart, which those charts are honestly irrelevant, but still, it is what it is. But they're at all-time lows,
Yeah.
and its underlying is at all-time highs. You see the discrepancies that I'm talking about here? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I can tell you what, Max's theorem will tell you exactly what they're going to do. So say the market is down, say the market's down 30% next year. Okay. Kind of like 2022.
Okay.
All right. Well, these funds, okay, so we'll take QQQY. Let's just say they pay 50% to make the math easy. And that's about right. So the market's down 30%. The good news is these funds don't catch all the downside. They just catch about half of it because of the buffer. But that means that they're going to be down on a total return basis. They'll be down, say, 15%. Okay, so that's great. But they'll be down 15%, but because they pay a 50% dividend, 50 plus 15 is 65. So their NAV's going to be down 65%. And so if you're just looking, so yeah, but now the investment won't be down that much. But yes, the chart is going to look like dog shit, for sure. For there's no way around it. My theory on it is most of my money is long term, and it's I'd say like 90% of it is just regular boring assets. So, with 5 or 10 or even 15%, these are just, I would just keep these. I'm not trying to time the market with these. I just keep them and let the dividend keep coming in, and they might reverse split at some point, but at some point they'll recover. The other thing is, another of Max's rules of thumb is, that you need to reinvest 2/3. In a down market, volatility will go up, and instead of paying 50, let's say QQQY pays 75. Okay, so that means that you can keep 25 for yourself, and then that means you need to put 50% or 2/3 back into these funds. Well, if in my last example, if these funds are down 65% on NAV over the course of a year, and you're putting 50% of your money back in, you're mechanically buying the dip, you'll be fine. That you'll be fine. Because the NAV won't be down that far for you, or it won't have even though the NAV's down that far, you're actually taking advantage of it because you're recycling the giant dividend back in, and then the market will eventually recover. And let's say the next year, let's just say, for instance, in the next year, the S&P and the NASDAQ are up 50%. Okay, well, that's great. And then your fund will start to recover, although not as fast. But so I just say stay allocated, keep the percentage at max 20%. I just can't see having more than 20% in these funds. That's just my opinion. I will say this, but I know there's people that have everything in these funds.
Yeah.
So if I was one of those people, for sure, if I saw a bear market coming, I would get out of these funds. My theory is keep it allocated to a low allocation and just and reinvest 2/3 of the dividend and just let it do its thing. That's my theory. What's your theory? You manage pretty active. You would dump these when in a bear market, right?
I don't know because that does, even though Defiance funds are my favorite currently, it's always my favorite is just because that's what's working for me at the time, right? My favorite can change month to month. There's no reason to
True.
not like them currently. Yeah, if they're in a down market, it's really been getting me thinking a lot. With as much as the market's been going up, when it does come back down, Maxi, it's not going to be a little pullback. We're past that point now. It's going to be some kind of corrective measure because we've gone up so far, right? So I don't know how I'm going to play it yet. Would I get rid of them in a bear market? I don't know because I do like the fact that I can collect income from it. Maybe, I'll short the market. Maybe um,
Yeah.
I'll manage risk a little bit and cut some, but still leave some in there, right? So I don't have as much going down, but still have an investment in them. I think there's several different ways to mitigate risk, right? So I don't know me personally if I would like totally dump it. I don't see that. But I do see a way that if I did see a bear market coming or a long corrective period, uh, I would probably just start going short on things and collecting that
Yeah.
revenue and leave my fund where it's at or take some risk off that particular QQY, JEPY, or whatever. Maybe trim some
Yeah.
risk off. That may be the way I approach it.
Yeah. No, absolutely, absolutely. I get that, and it's none of my business, but I'm guessing that you maybe have more than 20% of your assets in these high yielders. I don't know, but I'm saying that I would
No,
say
no,
that.
I am at honestly currently right now. I'm like 0.001%. Like I am so small. I got a $5,000 account in my high yield funds because I
Yeah,
just
I
been
got you.
been testing them. It's yeah, not even close to my main account.
I
But
got you. So you don't. Yeah.
so that leaves
Well,
my
we all.
mindset a little different, don't it? Because it's really no risk to me. They could all, you know,
Yeah.
they could blow up and I would be fine.
Exactly. And when they blow up, they're going to be paying a huge dividend on the way down. But if the market, say the market drops 50%, then these funds will drop 75%. So yeah, they're gonna if we have a year like that, they'll all reverse split. So it's I'm not saying it's gonna be pretty, but as long as you're recycling the dividend back into the back into the NAV, then eventually when the market recovers, you'll lower your cost basis and you'll be fine. Plus, you'll love about the 2/3 dividend on these, having to reinvest 2/3. That sucks. But on these high yielders, you're still taking home plenty of money. And
Yeah,
once you reinvest 2/3, you don't have to worry about the NAV going down because you're monetizing that. So that's my theory on it, is just reinvest 2/3 and let it go. But uh, that's my thinking on it. But yeah, I didn't realize you have a tiny amount. Okay, yeah, then of course just let it ride. But we all know people that, because people talk and they share their things in Discord, and there's
hmm
people out there that appear to have most everything in it or
yeah,
whatever. But yeah,
yeah,
though for those people, they definitely want to, because they definitely want to try to. But they're also the type of people that manage on it on a daily basis, and when the market crashes, they'll be out of these, really fast. So I'm just saying, the higher percentage you have in relation to your total portfolio, luckily it's not you or me, but the higher percentage you have, then
Hello, I can't hear you, Max. Uh-oh, we lost Max. Well, everybody, give Max a couple minutes. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Defiance here and just like my plan overall with it. And if Max is able to kick back in, that'll be great. If not, then we will end the podcast here. I will be investing a lot more into the Defiance, Yield Max, etc. like funds this year. I'm going to have one big account, and I think my allocation is roughly going to be. Oh, Max's computer died. He sent me a text, so we're just going to talk about it. We're going to let the we're just I'm just going to keep talking. Max will join us here in a second, everybody. Um, I'm going to be allocating a lot more to these funds. So my little amount I have now, it's going to go up pretty far. And then in my overall account, um, this is what I'm going to be using to live off of. So when this year my plan is as during my food season progresses, I don't want to touch my main account. I don't want to touch my savings account. So I will personally be one of those guys that Max is talking about with a lot allocated in it through the course of this year because I plan to retire. Now, out of that whole account, that's going to be strictly a dividend account. I won't have any growth in it whatsoever. I think my allocation, and I'm just fiddling around with numbers, I think my allocation is going to go like 30% high yield, maybe 40%. The other 40% money allocated is just going to be for option trading, running the wheel, scalping, etc. And then the other 20% is going to be in stuff like Max mentioned earlier, maybe like FEPI or iSpy or SpyI or JetQ or something like that. So I'll have a stability of those funds will only be about 20%. The high yield is going to be about 40%, and then the other 40% is going to be allocated just for option trading. So I will be doing that this year, and that's the plan by October to have a lot in these funds. I'm not going to be comfortable sharing like what those numbers are as I go into the future, but it's, honestly, guys, it's no one's business how much money I have or don't have, and I will not be comfortable sharing numbers once I get to a certain point. Now I don't mind saying I only got 5,000 in the account, but once we start getting up there, I'm not going to be comfortable talking about that. But I can talk percentages, and that's percentages work with any number factor, right? So again, 40% high yield for me, 40% cash on hand for option trading to generate weekly, monthly revenue, 20% in stable covered call funds. And that's how I'm going to run it. Max, you get your computer back on, baby? Oh, let me see. Okay. Max says computer died and he's trying to fire it up. That is all of our topics.
Back.
Max, hey, welcome back. So you did me a solid when I had to let the dog out. I got to thankfully return the favor, my friend. So we wrapped up Defiance. What is the last topic you want to talk about today? Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you, buddy.
I think just the plug something in the side and back in and said it disconnected us for a little bit. Yeah.
No problem. We're getting on close to an hour, so there's one more topic you said you wanted to surprise me with, so let's wrap it up with the last topic. What do you got, buddy? Oh, nope, we're still cutting out a tad here, my friend. Yep.
Oh, I'm glad.
Okay, I just heard you there. Yeah, it's cutting out super choppy.
I was going to ask you. Okay, big into.
Ooh.
What do you Costco? Costco means. I just want to ask Costco means. You have
Max, it is cutting out really bad.
Yeah,
I can't hear you.
I just wanted to ask you about. They have something out for. Sorry. Well, I don't know why it's doing.
Yeah, it's
on. We could just and we'll next week.
Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, Max is a little choppy here, my friends.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up Thank you,
We
everybody,
can just
for
wrap it up and we'll next week. Me?
sounds perfect.
All right.
Everybody, thank you. Please sub Max's channel, Max Convexity. Sub my channel, the Tactical Stock Scalper. Guys, we really appreciate everyone for listening. And that'll be the podcast for today. Thank you, everybody.